All right, from one let's bring in Washington Times opinion editor and Fox News contributor Charlie Hurd and host of Stacy on the Right on SiriusXM Patriot. Stacy, Washington, both of you, welcome to the show. Charlie, I'm going to come to you first. So this is a despicable abuse of power, and I would argue that the purpose of it is not, criminal justice. It's about campaign endeavors. Do you think the salacious testimony of Stormy Daniels trying to sully and beat up and muddy up Donald Trump is going to have an impact on the electorate and on the election?
No, I don't, Sean. And I think this whole thing is completely blowing up in Democrats' faces. Even if you try to take the facts of the case, even if you try to take this case seriously, the charges are ridiculous on the face. But obviously the fact that they have managed to snare President Trump in a trial at this point while he's running for president, we all have to pay attention to it and sort of take it sort of seriously. And even if you try to take it sort of seriously, they're the whole thing is blowing up in their face. The whole thing is, even what they're claiming is proving to be absurd. None of the things that they have alleged are true. And of course, in terms of the details about Stormy Daniels, the funny thing about all this, and I believe that was the real purpose. That was what they really did. This had nothing to do with the law. This all had to do with smearing President Trump and keeping him off the campaign trail. In terms of smearing President, everybody had already heard all these stories. There's nothing new here. So no, I don't think any of that is going to affect anybody, any voter. And if you look at the polling, 80% of Republicans now say that they would support Trump even if he was convicted of a felony. And a year ago, that number was like 30 or 40%. So all Democrats have managed to do is solidify his support and make, I think, even independents realize that this is all a political game and it's disgusting.
And Stacy, the left-wing lemmings on other networks covering this trial are also solidifying President Trump's support. And let me just point out, because I was looking at MSNBC today, and they talked about Stormy Daniels being an accomplished equestrian who is a mother. Andrew Weissman of the Mueller investigation referred to her as unflappable, and she came across as a thoughtful, savvy witness and said that now in the post-Me Too era, she's been through the ringer and has had a lot of time to reflect. But then they went to this former Manhattan assistant district attorney, and she said, there have been no witnesses yet who directly tied Donald Trump to the payments, which is exactly what we've been saying on our air. So I thought reality.
Dagan. So I had a couple things. First off, I saw Eli Honig over at CNN, and he was literally giving straight analysis, not left-wing claptrap, straight analysis about how she was eviscerated on the stand by Donald Trump's attorneys. So my thing here is everyone's asking, well, what difference will this make in the election? Nothing. I have now said that I am from my suburban perch with my rose garden and everything else. Now I'm totally gangster because for the first time in my life, I'm going to be voting for the felon. If they convict him, voting for him. If they shoot him off to space on one of those Falcon 9 rockets and install him at the space station like a satellite, voting for him. Do I need to throw up like suburban gang signs or take a picture with a coffee mug? Whatever I have to do, get a T-shirt, buy merch. I'm voting for Trump. I don't care what they do to him, what they convict him of. And if that makes me gangster, I finally get my street cred after all these years. What impact is it having? It's driving people like me. I'm a law-abiding citizen. I don't believe in criminals. But it's driving me to a place where I don't care what Trump says. I don't care what expletives he drops in the courtroom. I'm voting for him. Now, what's next? Me voting for Trump, black women voting for Trump, black men voting for Trump, children, if they can get into the ballot box and sign something, voting for Trump. Just tell us where we have to go to vote for this man. That's where they're driving us to.
Well, Stacy, to that point, Trump continues to warn voters about the threat that Biden and the unhinged left pose to our nation, which is your point. Watch.
Your problem is from the left, it's not from the right. Big problem from the left. It's from within our country. That's a bigger, in my opinion, a bigger danger than China or Russia. You have it from the outside and you have it from within. From within is a bigger danger to our country, and it's from the left, not from the right.
And Charlie, get this, new polls reveal that the majority of independent voters agree with him, and that has MSNBC in a complete panic.
More independents said that they worry about President Biden weakening democracy than Trump, 53% to 42%. What do you make of this?
I find it shocking, honestly. I can't, make sense of that number. I wish I could. I wish I could have some really great insight to it. But I don't know if it's an outlier or not.
Charlie, these just makes me think these people have to live in a bubble, that they don't see the way the real Americans look at a criminal prosecution for political purposes, or even the fact that, listen, mail-in balloting, no ID, that's a great way to hold an election. I mean, these MSNBC hosts are idiots.
Yeah, they really are. And I have to say, I'm with Stacy. I live on a farm, so I think that makes me rural gangster. But I'm down with it, whatever it takes. I love it. These people, I think people recognize that the real damage here is the idea that you have a party that is willing to use our most treasured judicial system in order to literally jail a political opponent because they can't beat them at the ballot box, and then as you point out, that they'll do anything to discredit the elections and they don't believe in election security at all. Any measure, normal, sane measure that ensures election integrity, they're against because they think that's going to hurt them, including voting unanimously against allowing. Ensuring that illegals aren't voting. Right. They want illegals to vote because they think that's going to help them. And I think people see through it, and they see that as a true demonstrable threat to our democracy.
Charlie just mentioned this, Stacy. Yesterday, the House passed a bill that blocks non-citizens from counting toward the House apportionment, which would change the number of representatives that each state gets by only counting legal citizens. Despite the win, every single Democrat voted against the bill, and it's expected to be dead on arrival when it gets to the Senate. So that's a jump ball. You can talk about that, or the kind of pearl clutching over at MSNBC that people see, see the left as being threats to democracy. Oh, I just want to mention, Joe Biden defying the Supreme Court on the eviction moratorium, the student loan handout. Yeah, that's a threat to democracy. But continue, Stacy.
Yep. Well, so Dagan, I got to tell you, the Beltway babes they had up there clutching their pearls, I got a lot of mileage out of that. Like, I felt myself getting younger by the minute watching them because, they don't ever talk to anybody outside of their political circles. They have no idea what real Americans think or see when they observe this craziness in these courts across the country going against Trump on behalf of Biden. But as far as that apportionment issue, I did the back of the envelope math on my show one afternoon. Just literally, you have 600 to 750,000 people per congressional district. You have an additional 12 to 15 million people in the country. That's an additional 18 to 24 congressional seats that the Democrats will be able to get if this rule that the Supreme Court put into place isn't struck down by legislation out of Congress. So, of course, the Democrats are against it because all of their population centers are having more outflow than they are inflow for immigration or moving for Americans going from place to place. Americans are pouring into red locations where they can have low taxes and their kids can play outside and less gangs, no Antifa, living like regular Americans. And then you have illegal aliens who are filling in those spots, except for the 167,000 plus that were flown in, inadmissible migrants that Biden flew in and placed in Tampa, Orlando, and Miami. We're now finding out about that. So they're planning on tipping the election with these people. And the question is, what are Americans going to do? Are you going to poll watch? You're going to jump out there and be a part of this process? Don't come to me on the radio complaining, talking about how you don't like what happened in November. If you weren't watching the polls, working as a precinct captain, doing something to assist in this process, there are a lot of organizations stood up to help us, and we can do something about this. But the congressional members, they showed us something today, Dagan. They showed us that Democrats believe in illegal immigration. They believe that's how they can win because their policies stink.
Right. And there's 2 points here. Counting illegals in an apportionment will affect the outcome of the House, right? Who's going to control it? But also, House members and senators make up the Electoral College. So how many votes each state gets for the presidency truly matters when you count illegal. So it's a double-edged sword. And again, maybe a theme of this segment is the threat to democracy.
Yep. Thank you both, Stacy
Sean.
Washington and Charlie Hurt. And
Great to
now
see
we
you
know
guys.
why Charlie didn't shave for our show, because he's trying to be like country gangster. Thank you,
right.
Charlie.
Oh, yeah.
I'm country gangster.
Thank you both.